another day, another person who just doesn't get how life works. I guess I don't I hate to make a bunch of videos. People are gonna think that I don't like trans people. I guess. So I made a few videos, but every time I make a video about this kind of stuff, it's always crazy hypocrisy. Just and it, I make videos about things that I think are weird in our culture, and I make videos about stuff that I want to talk about. Uh, this is one of them, I guess. I saw a few articles about this and a few videos, and I wanted to talk about it myself. It says, I asked Reddit why trans guys like me keep getting ghosted. Uh, the subreddit R dating advice didn't hold back, but I actually found some of the replies uh, strangely cathartic. This is by Mr. Lee Hurley. Um, I I know some people may may not like me calling it he, she, them, whatever. Look, when it comes to the whole pronouns thing, I'm never gonna use z, zer crap, and I'm gonna struggle to use, as I've said in the other video, they, them. I'm proud if I like most normal people, I'm gonna call you whatever you look like, most likely, um, unless I know otherwise, and it's very easy. So, Mr. Lee Hurley here, it looks like a dude. So if that's what you're presenting like, and you very clearly passed the test, I'm gonna call you he, him, her, whatever you want to be called. If you're a man in a dress, like you look like this, but you put a dress on, I'm gonna struggle. I may try. I'm probably gonna try, but I might struggle. So that's where I stand on that. I'm not gonna bend over backwards, but I will make every possible attempt to call you what you want to be called, whether it's he or her. Look, I'm not one of those people that are like there are 8,000 genders and you can pick. No. When it comes to this kind of stuff, there's hims and there's hers. There's not Sexuality has nothing to do with your pronoun of what it is. I hate the article for that, or not the article. The discussion for that is so stupid. When it comes to language and how you refer to people, what you are as a person, there's only two. It's him and her. If you would like me to use one or the other, regardless of what you are, I'm fine with that. I'll do my best. I can't promise anything though. If you look like a bodybuilder with a dress on, I can't help you. There's not a ton of those, but normally it's a large 6'3" man in a dress with a big old belly. All that to say, let's start reading this article, right? Internet dating when I was a lesbian was infinitely easier than it is now as a trans man. This first sentence right there is, well, no shit. Granted, that was years ago when only Sados partook and the rest of the world hadn't joined in to ruin it for us. Ghosting wasn't even a word back then, let alone tolerated behavior. Now, dating online is like rifling through a bargain bin of your local supermarket. You can scan the aisles quickly for something that catches your eye with little attention you pay to anything else. Swipe, 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 swipe. Yeah, that's true. I mean, you don't have to be a trans man to know that. I mean, look, I'm not the best looking guy in the world. I'd like to think I'm a solid 6.3. Good day 7 if I'm all dressed up nice and I got a fresh cut. But I'm gonna give myself solid 6.3. With a I'd say my ass is a solid 8.5. I'll give myself that. So, as someone who's been on these apps, look, you're scraping the barrel anyway if you're not a 10 out of 10. I mean, you present as a guy pretty well, but you're not exactly like hitting it out of the park. You look like a 40-year-old dude, and it's at a great angle, so I can't assume it's much better when it's zoomed out. So you're probably gonna struggle to find dates as it is. I mean, I'm like I said, I call myself a solid 6 at best, and I'm lucky to get a few matches as it is. All right, I'm lucky if anybody even gives me gives me a hey, what's going on, and doesn't unlike me right away. Anyway, let me keep reading. I've, but as dating as a lesbian was more understood to people know what that means. I'm a trans guy. The majority don't seem to know what to make of me, so they run away. I've played around with the big reveal. I know the two are linked. It's hard to not see the connection when you arrange a second date, drop the T-bomb, and she cancels in the next breath. Well, no shit. I'm going to say no shit like 10 times in this video, so if you don't like cursing, I'm sorry. This is the kind of thing you need to be very upfront with when you're dating someone. People have preferences. Whether you are a guy or a girl, you're unfortunately to your case, the genitals do matter, and people don't want to date other women, and all the things that come with that. And they don't want to date trans people. I understand that we have to be accepting of trans people, and that's fine. You can like trans people, but you're not forced to date them. There's a lot that comes with being trans, and the whole transition and everything that goes into it. That look, some people are just aren't looking for that in life. There's a lot tied into it, and some people aren't looking for that. Even if they would consider possibly dating a trans person, there's some people just aren't looking for that in life, and they're not, like I said, they're not forced to. And this goes into other videos I could make. There was a whole turf argument, and a lot of the lesbian crowd were getting very mad about just trans people in general, saying that they were trying to be forced into dating biological men because they were like, we're women too. Why don't you date us? Why don't you like our genitals? Like, I don't. For some reason, these people just don't get it. I guess I hate to say it's a mental health thing, but it probably is. Like, how can you not understand why people wouldn't want that? You're not. I understand you present as a woman, even if you're 100% passable. That's not what people are looking for. I mean, the majority of people, they want a family, and the majority of people aren't gay. I understand if you present as a woman or you present as a man, even if you are 100%, that's people are gonna see it as gay. If you're a woman presenting as a man, and you want to date women, that some women just aren't gonna like that. It's just not their thing. And the problem on top of that is biologically, it's just not, excluding genitals, it's not the same. Women put off different smells. Regardless of how much hormones you've had, you're just different as a type of person, and that's not what they're looking for a lot of the times. I know I'm generalizing in a lot of ways, but generalizations are the reason why you don't get a lot of people connecting with you. You don't understand is that, as I said, I'm not the best looking guy in the world on something like Tinder. So that let's say that I'm a 6, and that knocks off let's say that knocks off 90% of girls who won't even date me right away. All right, that's 90%. I'm probably being pretty high off of that, but let's call it a big number, 90%. All right, and then let's say I'm Asian. Let's say another 5% of girls won't date Asians. Right there, I'm down to 5%. Now let's say that I'm 5'8". Let's say 1% of those girls won't date somebody who's too short. Right there, that's 4% of girls. Now let's say I'm gay. Now let's say 3% of those people won't date a gay person because I'm looking for somebody very specific. Now I'm trans. That's even more. You get what I'm saying. You're cutting away at the amount of people you want to date just by the way you look. And I understand some people are gonna be like, you shouldn't judge people the way they look, and then we got to make a whole fat acceptance video of like, you should love my body, and now we're getting into that. No, people have preferences. People like certain races even. I have my preferences on who I want to date. I am more probably open than a lot of people. There's no specific I want, but I do have my preferences. I'm not gonna date some girl who is over 300 pounds unless she's like 6'5" or 7 foot. You gotta be a big girl. You gotta be Amazon level. Or I'm not gonna date some girl who's probably 90 pounds and anorexic almost. That's just not. It's not my preferences. I'm sorry. You may be a great person, but that's not my preferences. So let me keep reading though and stop rambling. So I did the most obvious thing to try and understand. It was going on and ask randoms on Reddit. Why do women vanish when I tell them I'm a trans guy? I posted on our dating advice, an advice forum with 1.1 million readers. That might sound like a recipe for disaster, and yes, I was prepared to nasty replies. They did come in volume, but not as much as I expected. At the start of my dating adventure, I following the end of a 3-year relationship. I had profiles on 3 different dating apps, but I only stated I was trans on one of them. I racked up likes on Tinder and Bumble. Nothing exceptional, but enough that I knew I wasn't repulsive. Things were significantly slower on OkCupid, where I stated that I was trans. OkCupid is a dumpster fire as it is. I'm not even sure you can look into being trans on there. Like, I don't know how it is for trans men, but trans women probably get just as many as regular women on these kind of websites. But OkCupid, unless you're a woman, is a dumpster fire. You might as well just be pissing in the wind. You're never gonna get a response on there 99% of the time. It's the worst of all of them. I won't lie, it got to me for a while. I'd be chatting with a woman, making her laugh, and seemingly going on well, and then I'd tell her, and she'd vanish. Over and over and over. Before dates, during dates, after dates, it didn't matter. The results were almost the same. When I went back to collect some comments on Reddit for this piece, I was glad I'd saved some because many had been deleted, determined not to take the horrible post to heart. I actually found it quite cathartic. One of my favorites was a person who told me that they would ghost me because it seemed too insensitive to be people squeaking. Sorry, I read that wrong. One of my personal favorites was a person who told me they would ghost me because I seemed too insensitive to people being squeaked out before revealing that a kind of thing squeaks me out. Squeaks me out? What the hell? By thing, I assume she meant me. Another said, a woman born as a woman, always a woman, no matter what. The women on the dating site apps were not interested in dating other women, so they vanished because they aren't interested in me. It made me feel sorry for those who have such a limited view of how gender and sexuality works. It helped me realize that isn't actually anything to do with me. It's a societal problem, not theirs, or theirs, not mine. I mean, how do you counter someone who thinks an Adam's apple is a central component of being a mate? This is the kind of thing that makes you like bleed out of the ear. Just like, this is so stupid. If everybody else thinks it, and you are the only person who thinks they're wrong, it might be you. You might be wrong. You might be wrong. It's a societal problem. Theirs, not mine. I mean, how do you counter someone who thinks that an apple is so you're telling me somebody's gender is not essential to a mate? And I don't mean your pseudoscience gender and all the social stuff you've made up. I mean their actual gender. You don't think that being a biological male or a biological female is important to the majority of people. I understand you live in a bubble, but not thinking that matters is insane. Let me continue. What also struck me was how a lot of replies were penis-centric. It's probably the general issue, replied more than one. Another answered, I would assume that it's the thought that you don't have a penis that puts them off. I have a drawer full of dicks, they said. A size to suit every pleasure, and not one of them has ever failed to get up, get hard, get her off. Not always. The fact that somebody thinks that a drawer full of dildos will compensate for not being a man, and that is remotely the same thing, just shows how insane this person is. The suggestions on how to address this problem were varied. One helpful user informed me that I should find some lesbians to date, presumably because of their well-known love for hairy men like myself, as they assumed wrongly. that I hadn't had lower surgery. By the way, the pictures of those lower surgeries are disgusting. Just stick with the dildos, man. uh, more than one accused me of trying to trick potential mates by not declaring my transness up front. I didn't check their dating profiles, but I assumed they'd listed every medical condition they have on theirs. I noted how they didn't seem to expect a man who'd lost a testicle to cancer, for instance, to declare that up front as more profile, nor a woman who might have lost their breast to the same disease. That is not remotely the same thing, especially because a lot of people do. A lot of people, if they do have breast cancer, will put that on there. Maybe they won't list that they will have one testicle, but they will list whether they can have children or not a lot of times. Every medical condition is not important, but the important ones are listed. Things like being HIV positive, having herpes, having STDs in general, having no dick. If I'm a man, not even trans, let's say I lost my dick in a very tragic accident, or I lost my leg in an important accident. These are things you want to list on a dating profile, because not everyone wants to be involved in this kind of relationships. I'm sorry, not being able to have kids because you don't have a dick. Period. Having a person who's partly disabled. Those are real things you have to take on. It's just like somebody who has kids. Not everybody wants to take on a relationship with a partner who has kids. It's the same thing. There are problems that come with those relationships. There's baggage. I understand you don't like it, but that's just the way it is. Women obviously want a real man, I was told. One that was born that way. As I was born a woman, I'd always remain one, and I was told by someone else, perhaps these potential dates wanted children, I was informed. Yet we don't require anyone else to declare their fertility status on their profiles, so I doubt that's the reason either. No, you don't date your fertility, but you do date or say whether you want kids or not. That is very important to a lot of people. I personally don't want kids. Maybe in a few years, maybe when I'm 30 something, I want kids, but that's not what I want now, and that's not what I want in a potential mate. I can be reasoned with, but that's just not what I want. The overriding sense I got from replies was one of ignorance about trans people, and while most of the offensive and ridiculous replies are now gone, there was some hope in the others that remained. I kept clashing with people because of this, but I honestly don't think that trans people are obligated to put their transsexuality as a disclaimer in front of each and every potential romantic interaction. Wrote one woman. And yeah, you're going to find some people who don't think that, but that's only like certain liberals. The majority of people want to know, not just a majority, the vast majority would want to know whether you're transsexual or not. Some people won't care, but most people will. I know I'd be comfortable as hell if I had to disclose, I know I'd be uncomfortable as hell if I had to disclose what my genitalia looks like and what my fertility status is complete strangers. I wouldn't want a guy with a micropenis to tell me about it before any feelings could possibly develop, just because I might not want to have sex with him and find it out after. That is important information. Having a small dick is not information you want to know about, but having a functioning one is fine. Look, a micropenis might be relevant information. And I'm talking about micropenis, like it's inside your body, those kind of crazy ones. But having a small one in general is not, that's not information you want to put in your thing. But what your genitalia is and your fertility status are both important informations. They may not have to be on your profile, but that is something when you first talk to somebody, within the first 5 minutes of a conversation, maybe before that should be something you tell them. Hey, I saw on your profile that you were interested in kids. I just want to say that, hey, I'm not fertile. Or, hey, I saw you wanted to have kids. By the way, I don't have a dick. Or I have a micropenis, so it is very hard for me to do so if that is something you're extremely looking for. I don't understand how you don't think that wouldn't be important. I know I'd be uncomfortable as hell, blah, blah, blah. I can't think of any other bedroom issue that I've seen be discussed that early on. What don't you understand about, it is. How would it not be important to having an STD, having HIV, and not having a dick at all because of some reason like that? Like, let's say it was, like I said, you got a work accident and got it ripped off. Ugh, that shakes just thinking. I shake just thinking about the pain of that. That really is the whole issue in a nutshell. We hold transgender people to a higher standard than anyone else when it comes to dating. We require more than we ask of others, while constantly sending a message that trans people are somehow less than. The reality is, being trans is a magic sorting hat. As tough as it is to have people vanish when you tell them you are, it does me a favor by telling them one thing about me. Their reaction tells me everything I know. I should probably message them telling them thanks. The second to the last paragraph is probably the most ridiculous. Trans people are not held to a higher standard. That's not what it is. You are held to the same standard as everybody else. It's just not in part of people's preferences. I'd put transgender people in the dating pool in the same category as somebody who has severe issues like being quadriplegic or something like that. Not that they're equal. Somebody who's quadriplegic is not necessarily undateable. They might be a great person. They might actually be attractive, but there's a lot of stuff that goes along with that, and that's not even counting the fact that that being trans has the whole, like I said before, you are not the appropriate gender for the person who wants to date you, period. You're not less than because of it. You're not less than if you're quadriplegic, but there's a lot of stuff that goes along with it. And like I said, being a quadriplegic doesn't even take into the fact that you are not the appropriate gender of the person who wants to date you. I don't understand how people can't get that through their head. One day this is going to come to a head. And as I said it earlier, there's been articles in the past of people who are transgender forcing themselves upon other women, same sex or otherwise, and it's just, I don't know. I don't know where this goes. I don't understand why this person can't get it through their head. Tell me in the comments what you think.